Okay, welcome to the Next Gen Planners Morning Commute. I'm Adam Carolan. Your co-host is Rohan Sibajoti. Did I say that right? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think you know me for long enough now to get that right.
I got it wrong for the first couple of years, but I think I corrected it. Okay, right. Today, while everyone's coming in, we have our regular Wednesday phone-in style Q&A with two great guests, both called Ellis. We have Jennifer Ellis from Wellington Wealth and Rich Ellis from Ellis Davis Financial Planning. And the topic of the day is a great one, actually: how to deliver an effective ongoing service.
Yes, so some of the suggestions and sort of questions that we'd like, things I really want to get into the nuts and bolts of how these guys deliver great ongoing service. So, things like what they actually do when it comes down to annual review, what sort of tools they use, and the type of metrics that they're using to measure client returns on, whether that's via life or investment returns or whatever. I'm really, really excited to hear about that. So looking forward to the Ellis Double Show. But first of all, we have our very own anchorman, Jack Gilbert, in the room to discuss with us today's news from New Model Advisor. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Ryan. Thanks for the intro.
So what's been going on?
What has been going on? Well, I guess starting off with markets, boring stuff. FTSE's down about 1% this morning. I think it might be a reflection of the loads of insurers have cancelled their dividends this morning. So Aviva, Direct Line, RSA, a few other insurers cancelling the dividends. Hardly that surprising given how badly affected insurers have been. Although we've seen, I think L&G and Standard Life have both kept their dividends, so they've kind of bucked the trend, but there's been a lot of pressure on them to cancel their dividends. And then next up, this morning we're going to be putting out this brilliant podcast from our reporter Laura Perks. She's done this interview with a digital marketer, a guy called David Miles, basically like a Phil Bray-esque kind of guy. And the podcast is all about kind of Google Ads and how IFAs should be using them and can be using them to get leads and appear top of Google search rankings. But it also touches on the world of online third-party lead generators. And Laura's done some great investigations into this in the last couple of months. Basically what we found is this kind of increasing trend of IFAs who are paying for leads from third-party lead generators. And the lead generators effectively, what they're doing is mimicking kind of search engines like Unbiased and Vouch for and Advisor Book, and looking like search engines for advisors. You put your details into them, and we've done this a couple of times, just saying, I'm Jack Gilbert, I want a financial advisor, I live in Newcastle, whatever. And then you get spammed by one financial advisor. Historically, we found that Tilney and SJP seem to be the main ones who are coming up. And what effectively happens is the advisors can pay like 200 quid, 300 quid for a lead in some cases. Wow. And then once you put your details in, the advisor will then be able to contact you and basically try and get you as a client. But it's going on quite a lot. I think we've noticed a lot of this going on Google. So the podcast talks about this, and I think it's quite worrying because we've seen some examples of cross shareholdings. So the advisors will also own shares in the lead generators and vice versa. And Laura found a factory that's going on in Leeds, where there was like a DB transfer factory basically, and they were getting loads of leads from the lead generator they owned. It's all quite murky. So basically, listen to this podcast.
Wow, that sounds like a very good investigative piece, Jeff. Very good, mate.
I'll send through the investigations as well. Encourage everyone to just kind of digging this up a bit. So yeah.
Nice. And do you want to just talk quickly about, because I saw some of the stuff coming through yesterday about the Advice 2050 thing that NMA have got going on?
Yeah, that's good, Ryan. I was going to forget about that. Yeah, so we just published our latest special issue, which went to press last week, and the guys have been working hard on. It's basically looking at the future of advice. I'm sure some of you guys have contributed to it. I think Adam, you have. I'm sure other people in the school have as well. Looking at the future, I see my boss looking at me now. It's a great magazine, top magazine. Very good, very good. Basically, it's looking at the future of what people's lives are going to look like, what advice is going to look like in the year 2050. It's now all on the website, so it's all online. So I'd encourage everyone to have a look. We'll be putting this out in the next week or so. So yeah, have a look at the site and look out for stuff coming out in emails from that.
Cool. That's really good. Anything else going on, Jack? Have you got an interesting day ahead?
Yeah, it's all these days are interesting in these strange times we live in.
Tell his glasses on.
I don't know. There's not. I don't know. The FCA. The FCA are keeping us very busy on our toes, so I'm kind of expecting possibly more things coming out there. And they had a bit of a deluge yesterday with quite a lot of news from them. And obviously, everyone, I guess, in the back of their minds is kind of thinking about Boris Johnson and hoping he comes out of intensive care today or at some point soon. So yeah, that's basically it.
Great. And Will Robbins has just posted, I think, the podcast in the show notes, the chat. Right. Okay. Right. We go to our very own financial well-being guru, and for once, he's not wearing a terrible shirt from TK Maxx. So, Chris, where did that T-shirt come from? Because it's not actually too bad.
Thank you, Adam. It's actually from my son. He has a website where he sells T-shirts. This is one of his drawings, one of his designs. There's about 4 or 5 on there. Hopefully, should be some more soon. So I'll post a link to it if anybody's interested in looking a bit smooth on the podcast.
Yeah,
smoother than this.
What have you got for us today, Chris?
So I've been putting a bit of thought into what the information that we take on board and also the information we give to clients. And I just preface this to Will and Jack and say this is of no criticism of the news outlets that we have because they give us the news that we want. But I was really taken by a comment from Will yesterday when he said that if they don't put something about the movement of markets, they get a real hard time from advisors because they really want that information. Now, information we take on board, it seems to me, is either going to increase or decrease our well-being. Occasionally, it might have no effect on it whatsoever, but usually it's going to have one effect or the other. And it would seem logical that we take on information that is going to increase our well-being, right? And by the way, I'd invite everybody to think about the information they take on board as well as the information you're giving to clients. So we are telling clients all the time, especially at the moment, don't look at the markets. Don't spend your time looking at the markets going up and down because it'll only worry you or excite you, and neither emotion are correct. I think I saw something on TV recently. It was the cricket thing, where they said you're never as good or as bad as people say you are, which I thought was a great quote. And you say the same thing about markets. It's all false. So if we're telling clients that, why are advisors so keen to find that information, that daily movement of markets themselves? Why are we so obsessed with investments? With fund manager movements, one of the other stories was a fund manager has gone from one place to another. Why do we care about that? We obviously do, because that's why they're giving us that news. But is that information helping us? So I would just invite people to think about the information you're taking on board and the information you're giving to clients and thinking about, is that actually helping their well-being or is it hindering their well-being and your own well-being at the same time?
Great advice. Just quickly, is there anything that you would do personally to help that?
I have done, because we were all susceptible to it. And when the markets were zooming down, it was grimly fascinating, wasn't it? It was like watching a car crash. Yeah. And then one day I just went, what am I doing? Why am I looking at this? Twitter's the same, isn't it? It's a hoover. It's a time hoover, Twitter. And I love it. But there are times I go, why am I reading this rubbish? You know? So it's just a wake-up call every once in a while, just to say to yourself, is this helping me or not?
Yeah, great advice. Thanks, Chris.
Good call, Chris. Okay, nice one. Thank you. Right, so today and now it is time for the Q&A. We have Jennifer Ellis from Wellington Wealth again and Rich Ellis from Ellis Davis Financial Planning. Adam and I will also participate in this, however our surnames are not Ellis. The topic today is how to deliver effective ongoing service. So if you could start putting your questions through the chat box, that'd be super. But I will just kick us off. I'll come straight over to you, please, Jennifer, if that's okay. And just ask you sort of what is the kind of process that you currently have when you're delivering a client review?
I think it's really important, first of all, just to ascertain whether somebody's starting from like no clients or somebody's starting from a client bank, because it's important to know who you have getting the service, when you're going to deliver the service, and what documentation or what are you producing for the service. So we obviously based quite a lot of our ongoing review on our prod segmentation, and prior to that it had been a segmentation of business strategy. because that lets you know who's paying you for the correct service. But in terms of what people get, we tend to separate out the valuations from the review, if you like. So the valuations are produced for certain groups of clients twice a year and other groups of clients once a year. And that's done religiously. And rather than done on a monthly basis, we've split it into a January and July for one group and an October for another. And that's purely to do with that tended to be our quieter times of the year. And that just fitted in better with holidays, etc. Then my sister Nicola delivers the meetings, and that can be spread throughout the year, mainly to suit the clients. So that, bearing in mind that they're also busy people, we can't really shoehorn them into a time scale of meetings.
Sure. Okay. Super. And Rich, obviously you've, I hear you've just, what is it, 3-year anniversary of Ellis Davis. Congratulations, mate. How's it gone? How have sort of your review processes changed from that moment 3 years ago to what it is today?
Thanks, Rohan. Thanks for that. So 3 years old last week, so we're all very chuffed about that. I suppose we've just become more robust with process, I suppose, really. We probably like most people, we have all reviews kind of built into our back office system as an ongoing task management system, if you like. Clients get a call typically about 4 weeks before a review to book in. We review all of our clients annually. Similar to Jennifer, really, we kind of we took the decision to bunch our client reviews around February, March, and around September, October, just because we do a lot of business owners. February, March is good for sort of year end, and September, October, everyone's massively happier once the kids go back to school and they've had holidays and things like that. And so we just thought that, arranging outside of those peak times was a really good idea. So that's how we tend to organise our reviews. We've just got a bit more robust over the last couple of years, really.
Okay. So in preparation for that review, are you sending out an agenda to the client for what you're going to cover? What sort of documentation does it involve? Give us a bit more nuts and bolts of what it looks like.
Yeah. So once we've booked the review in, the client gets an email, typically with a request for some information that we might need just to bring our systems and processes up to date, and often information we can plug directly into the cash flow plan. And then in between that period and actually the review date, we're obviously preparing things like updating the Voyant plan for the client. We actually become quite disillusioned with a lot of the stuff, I'll call it stuff, because it's quite early in the morning, the stuff that gets spewed out of back office systems and platforms themselves, as far as valuations or what the platform or the back office provider believes you should be doing with clients or showing to clients. So we kind of made a decision probably about 18 months ago to not use any of that stuff and to just build something ourselves that we think is more relevant for the client, that's based around the client's life and not their money, that's visual, that they can use, that brings key points together about what they're trying to achieve. It's different from the cash flow output. So we've built our own document, which is a 4 or 5 page summary document, which does include the MiFID II sort of disclosure at the back and the suitability disclosure. But in the front of it, it's more about the sort of client's life and what we're trying to do with them, what we're trying to achieve, and almost like a 1-page asset plan, that sort of thing. So yeah, we took that upon ourselves because we didn't like, we just moved away from the pretty charts and the pie charts and the numbers and the stuff that clients really just don't care about, in our opinion.
Good man. And I should say to everyone that Rich has it tougher than everyone else because he's got to convince everyone that he's a normal human being after supporting Arsenal. So he does have it harder. So nice. Jennifer, so similar thing at Wellington Wealth, really. What sort of documentation are you using with clients? What sort of metrics are you measuring and using?
We use I suppose a document that we've created from our back office system, but again, it's never the standard document. We don't like the standard documents that come out of these things. We also Nicola will do a bespoke one-page financial overview for clients. And again, it's a very visual document, and it's a chance to revisit that and just make sure that's on track. We have, if appropriate, we have sort of maybe some analytics. Some clients are more interested in a bit more of a deep delve into their investments, but not all. And that's one thing that we do, is we try to tailor it to the client at the end of the day, because it's what the client's wanting from you. Although we have a standard process and we have some standard things, it's that little bespoke touches for the individual clients that make that client feel special, and therefore that's really important as well.
So tell us about some of those. Give me some examples of some of those little individual touches that you.
Well, it's either a financial plan or something, or I mean, it could also be that somebody we would just send a bottle of gin or a hamper to. It's not always just about the figures. It's about something that's important to them, or sometimes Nicola turns up with a gift for a new grandchild, or it's very because we've known the clients for a long time and we tend to be very close to what's going on in their life. It's something relevant or topical to the client, which not everyone will do, but it's you know, we are genuinely interested in what's happening in their lives, and it's important, you know, their first grandchild or their 80th birthday, or you know, or their 50th birthday, you know, and these are sort of milestones or points that are important to the client.
Really good. And actually, one of the best things I heard about your ongoing review system, Jennifer, is the whole holiday guide thing that you guys have. Do you want to explain to people a little bit about that and how you use that with clients?
Well, it's more something that I want to do rather than I have. Obviously, I realised that I was building up a load of holiday books myself, and I thought that other clients would as well. And we thought we could do a sort of a bookshelf where clients could bring their holiday books or share experiences with different clients, because everybody's interested in similar places. So, you know, people might want to go to Sri Lanka, and I've just been there, or the Maldives, or, you know, wherever it happens to be. If you've got a guidebook to a particular area, why not share that with the next client? And, you know, we also plan to sort of do some more video content for our website. And if a client wants to explain about a place they've just been, so that it can inspire other clients, then that's a really good thing. To beef up the content, not just about financial services, because at the end of the day, it's about what clients are wanting to do with their lives and inspire them and make them dream, I suppose.
Super, really good idea. That really like it. It's cool. Caroline, this seems like a good time to bring you in as well. Talk to us about Zentum.
Oh, me? I was going to ask some questions. I mean, we have two types of clients. We have traditional clients. We have business owner clients. So the business owner clients are more complex. So we actually have a lot of touch points, a lot of meetings with those. So you might have a business planning meeting, you might have a tax year end meeting. So generally have 4 or 5 meetings with these guys. God, I thought you were drinking a glass of wine then, Ro.
No, it's gin.
Yeah, so we, for the business owners we look after, we generally have 4 to 5 meetings, but for the simpler clients, and we call them simple clients really, we just have the one standard financial planning review. But we don't put people into boxes they don't want to be in. So I think Adam asked a question, if someone doesn't engage with the financial planning process, what do we do? So I wouldn't want someone to meet 4 or 5 times a year if they don't want to meet 4 or 5 times a year. So I think we have that conversation, you know, every year to say, look, what do we have coming up this year? How many times do you think we have to sit down on an annual basis? So if we've got like a business exit coming up, we'll generally sit down probably every 3 or 4 weeks probably, and even more. If it's just simpler, we'll sit down every year. So we try and adapt it, if that makes sense.
That's good. It does. Excellent. And Rich, you sort of talked about your annual reviews before. What other touch points do you have throughout the years as part of your like ongoing client service?
Well, something we introduced last year was when we took on Lindsay's. We kind of have we actually nicked this idea off of Ashton's firm, IFA Max. So we basically do a 3-month check-in with new clients. That's kind of built into the process, because there's a lot of time in between sort of a long onboarding process and then typically the first annual review. So Lindsay will call in, check in with the client, introduce herself, and go through some key sort of housekeeping points and let them see if they're comfortable and they're set up on our portal and they need anything else from us at that stage. So we just thought that was an important kind of check-in point. But generally, we don't have anything sort of robust and factored in. We just tend to check in with clients every so often, you know, via WhatsApp. We'll hop on a Zoom if a client says, you know, can we have a quick chat? We just do it in between review meetings. We don't kind of say to a client, you know, these are the options you've got as far as contact with us. We just say, you know, if you need to contact us at any point, then do so, and we'll be quite proactive around that. A lot of our clients are business owners, so if there's stuff going on in their business or stuff that we know is happening that we hear from their accountant, then we'll typically get in touch anyway, just to say, just so just so they know and it feels like we know what's happening, and that we're looking after them. So,
Rich, just on that, there's a lot of science behind those first 90 days actually. So that's a really good thing to do. So apparently, someone did a survey and looked at the data, and the first 90 days is apparently the most vulnerable when you're taking on a new client relationship. So that's a really good thing to do, I think, that others could do, because you sometimes you fall into this trap of, we've onboarded them, it's fine, we won't see them for another year. But the science is actually saying you need to have as many touch points in those first 90 days as possible.
Exactly, yeah. The science is around buyer's regret. So effectively, they're in a period of time where they're not quite sure if what they've done is right. They've put a lot of trust and faith in somebody, and they're thinking about what they've done and maybe regretting it a bit. And then they're maybe a bit unsure after probably quite a long onboarding process exactly what happens next. So it's just really telling them what you've already told them, but it's also just putting an arm around them and letting them know that we're going to look after them. Really,
we've also found that the life stage is important in your review, and you know, touch points. Perhaps when you're coming up to retirement, you want more touch points. Then, have you found that in general, that or you know, maybe someone that's accumulating doesn't need as many touch points as the person that's you know, coming into retirement?
I think when people have got big decisions to make, they need as many touch points as they can get, because they'll just need to reinforce what they're going through, is my view. Whether you're selling a business or you're retiring, you know, you've got a lot of doubt and a lot of fear going through your mind. So the person to go to then is your financial planner.
Yeah, agreed. You said you had some more questions, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, we've got quite a lot of questions, so we might have to come back to this as a topic. But let's have a look. Adam Owen wants to know what happens if someone doesn't engage with your ongoing financial planning process.
Rich?
Did I get that one?
Go on, Rich.
Yeah. So we, it's quite simple for us really, because we've only really got one service, which is our financial planning service, and the nature of that service is an ongoing relationship. We don't really do transactional work. We made that decision not to do transactional work, and we've turned stuff down because it is just one-off work that is not really for us. Really, we know what we want to do and what we're best set up for. So basically, if we understand from that initial meeting that they just want us to do a piece of work and they don't need us again, it's likely that we'll say, well, we can refer you on to somebody who did a really good job for you, but it's not really for us because this is what our service looks like. There are a couple of exceptions to that. If we think someone's doing a very good job and they don't, you know, that we're going to be we're going to be an expensive commodity for them, maybe for a few years, but they've got some really big decisions in 5 years' time, then we might take a business decision to help them out and ask them to come back to us in 5 years' time. We do have a few business owner clients where they're typically time poor and are really difficult to tie down for reviews. We've found that trying to be a bit flexible around, using Zoom just to fit in with them tends to work to get their time. But if we've got people that are saying to us that, oh, I don't need a review, or I don't necessarily feel the value in having one right now at this time, we can often take a view on that if we feel that they just want to rearrange for a few months. But if they're basically saying we don't need to review this year, we haven't really had that happen, really. But if we did, then we'd probably talk it through and just explain that they're paying for it, and and to do a good job for them, we need to sit down and check that the information that we built within the plan is still correct, to check that we're still on track, to check that the objectives are the same. So yeah, we haven't had to, but we'd probably be quite insistent.
Right, let's have a bit of fun, Ryan. You up for this?
Yeah, go for it. Come on.
Right, okay. Competition of the day, and we have a book here to give to the winner. So, fingers ready, and Rohan is going to judge the best Zoom background. So I hope you've all been looking for images of the background. Let's go.
Catherine Morgan's turned into, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's suitable for work or not, what that is, Catherine.
Apparently.
That's we've got two people with a Tiger King. That's pretty good. I like that. Okay. Rich, I'm like, who's winning this? I'm a big Tiger King fan, but there's two people with Tiger King. I
think Hiren's is very good.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it to Hiren. I mean, to have two real-life superheroes in the background is amazing, isn't it? But well done, mate. That's really good. Oh, Catherine's now turned into that.
Hi, guys.
Oh, you think you've got the real sound as well? You've got the real sound as well, Hiren.
Thank you. Stay in your currents, not just for today.
Look, so that is going to be the end of today's show. And tomorrow we've got Clem and Marcus presenting. It's our pre-Easter show special, so there won't be a show on Friday. We've got Craft in Focus with Gretchen. I think we've got Nikki live from her rhubarb in the garden, haven't we? So some gardening stuff. And also an interview with Daniel Murdoch from Succession as well as NMA back with the news and all the usual features. Thank you for playing along with that today. If you want to ask Rich Ellis about his background offline, you can do, but it's definitely not going into this recording. So I look forward to seeing you all bright and early tomorrow.